New details emerge about the Uvalde shooting, the shooter, and the fact that he was in the building for an hour before somebody finally got the good sense to go back in there to try to figure out what to do. So we'll talk just a bit about that. Plus, we'll be talking about some of the new laws, some of the new proposals that have come forward about this, and Beto O'Rourke crashing a Greg Abbott event as well. So that's going to be probably the majority of the show that we're going to be talking about with that as well. In other news, AOC Biscuit goes scorched earth on leadership and the opponent in a primary in Texas in which her favorite candidate didn't win. So we'll talk just a bit about that, plus some other news about the midterms. Henry Kissinger, in the story that we weren't able to get to today, says that we do not need to go in and defend Taiwan, and also says that the Ukraine should cede land to Russia. So we'll go just a bit about over what's going on with that. And let's see, what else should we do here? A North Carolina man is sentenced to prison for trafficking $121,000 worth of turtles to Asia. I think we know what's going to happen with those turtles. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a slew of stuff to go over here today. We have the half of the show that we didn't get to yesterday because there was so much information about the shooter that was already emerging. Plus, we've got new information about what happened over in Uvalde that we need to go over as well. Some of the reactions, some of the attempts that they've had to come back and pass laws and pass bills. Because, guys, just one more law would have done it. One more law. And then the next one happened, and it'd be one more law would have done it. Why won't they do just one more law? Plus, I'm kind of entertained by how all these people are. Some of the people on the left are starting to come around to this too. Like, hey, we were able to go back and send over $40 billion of aid into Ukraine, but we can't protect the children. Well, I fail to see how $40 billion worth of money being thrown at the problem would have done anything, but go off. Or Tulsi, who, by the way, I like Tulsi usually, was totally wrong on this one and says, oh, well, what we have going on here is we need to protect the children, and we can drop everything to send $40 billion to Ukraine, but we need to set up single access points to all of our schools and metal detectors. And I'm just sitting here thinking, Tulsi, that's a local issue. That happens at a local level. I like the idea, and if you should be touring the country, showing states and local school boards what it is that they should be doing, but there is no authority on the federal level to go back and do that. So start educating people on the lower levels if that's what you want to see. Because you can't get it passed for Congress, and you can't do anything about it in Congress anyway, because you're not in Congress anymore. You resigned your seat because you wanted to be the president that bad. But yeah, we're going to go over all this. There's going to be a lot of it here over on Contemporary. Let's get live chat up so I can see what you guys are doing. Make sure you guys aren't killing each other, because we wouldn't want to have that. But let's get into it. Let's get started. And before we do, head on over. Check out all of the great creators who are set and slated to join the website once we get up and started. And I am talking about the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the Already Conservative, and the Porch Boys. Go check out all those shows. They're all great friends to liberty. They're all great friends to freedom. They are great friends to the news and culture. And, well, we'd rather have you get your news and culture from people who are just like you rather than people who sit in an ivory tower and wear a suit that costs more than your house. So go and check all those shows out. It's going to be a great time. I see Silentcaster in the chat. I know that there's a possibility right now that I might be working with him sometime in the near future, so I don't know when that's going to happen. I've not had a confirmation back, but I'd be willing to if something else were to come up here, so let me know about that somewhere off to the side as well. But let's get into the finance for the morning. Starting with the Dow. The Dow had an update yesterday. It was kind of interesting to see. Bring itself back up above the 32,000 mark once again. The Dow is up to 32,120.28. That's up 198 points throughout the day yesterday, and it was kind of a whipsaw. It kind of ran around, it jumped up, and it fell back down, and it jumped up again. And really, honestly, for some of us who follow this every day, there's a little bit of suspicion that they did some honkity-honk at the end, because one of the more vulnerable voting demographics is losing money out of their retirement every day this goes down. So this is something to watch, this is something to see, and we'll continue to watch and see where it goes as it goes. Looking in at your Bitcoin, let's back that out to 5 days and see where the collapse went once again. A fairly significant collapse in the Bitcoin throughout the day yesterday, down to 29,090.80. Looks like it's on the cusp of dropping down to 28,000 in the high 28,000, so we'll continue to watch and see where this goes. And once again, the question is did a bunch of people all at once all need to go back and buy gas, diapers, or fill the tanks to go and start for their Memorial Day trip? Possibly one of the last ones that they'll be doing for a while. We'll continue to watch this. We'll continue to see where this goes, and we will see what's happening with that. And speaking of your Memorial Day, looking in at your gas forecast for your Memorial Day weekend. The Costco is at 405. That's in Sun Prairie. The Quick Trip at Sun Prairie is at 405. Looks like 405 pretty much across the board in Sun Prairie. Once we get down into Madison proper, we start to see a 407. Oh, there's a 407 in Sun Prairie as well. Fleet Farm in DeForest is 409, Woodman's in Sun Prairie is 409, and the Quick Trip in Madison proper on University Ave is 413. So a little bit of a relief coming from some of where we're seeing here. Not much, a few cents. I mean, we're not looking back down into the high twos by any stretch of the imagination. No indication right now that this is going to jump up and spike for the holiday weekend either, so something else we will continue to watch, pay attention to, and see what's happening with that. But one of the big ones off of that is, our corporate overlords do want us to go out there and enjoy ourselves and pretend nothing is wrong either. So we will see what's going on with that. Let's see what IBD has to say. From Investors Business Daily, Dow futures rise as market rally needs this. Broadcom to buy VMware, Twitter, Nvidia are key movers. From Ed Carson. Dow futures rose modestly Thursday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. Nvidia headlined key earnings overnight, while Twitter popped as Elon Musk beefed up financing for takeover deal. Broadcom agreed to buy more virtualization software maker VMware for $61 billion in cash and stock, or $142.50 a share, following several days of buzz. IT's the third biggest software takeover for chipmaker Broadcom in recent years. Broadcom also reported better than expected fiscal earnings in Q2 and announced $10 billion in buyback. VMware missed views. AVGO stock edged lower. VMware rose slightly after surging 26% so far this week. Market rallies, but no confirmed uptrend. The stock market rally attempt had solid gains on Wednesday after Fed minutes from the early May meeting showed most policymakers favored aggressive tightening now, leaving the option of shifting gears later this year. However, while the Nasdaq delivered a strong price gain, Nasdaq volume fell slightly, so there's still no confirmed uptrend. Energy stocks fared well, with several flashing buy signals, but many of Wednesday's big gainers were beaten down growth and retail names. Tesla rose 4.9%, ServiceNow 7.8%, and Target 4.3%. Dick's Sporting Goods reversed higher despite slashing guidance. Meme stocks, GameStop, and AMC Entertainment leapt 29% and 14% respectively. I fail to see how AMC is still a, quote, meme stock. I really do. I mean, people are going to the movie theater. It's just a regular stock at this point. Like, when everything was shut down, it was a meme stock. Yeah, I get that. And I get that this will still fall into this, but, I mean, even the most ardent home theater systems are not going to be the same as your theater experience, where you can go back in and buy your overpriced popcorn and your 75% marked up candy. You just don't get that experience at home. GameStop? Maybe, but that's always been a meme stock. That's always been the pump and dump for the hedge funders, which, by the way, it's a little bit funny when people talk about pump and dump for Madison Cawthorn and how evil that is, and yet our hedge fund managers do it every single day, but we'll continue to watch this and see where this goes. Looking in at the futures, Dow futures rose 0.5% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures also climbed 0.5%. NASDAQ futures advanced 0.2%, even with NVIDIA stock a negative. Crude rose less than 1%. The 10-year yield climbed 1 point to 2.75%. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we see from that. Let's grab one quickly from Seeking Alpha. Looking in at the numbers from yesterday, just a little bit of a smattering statistical breakdown of that. And then we'll get into the big news of the day. NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow futures get a lift from morning earnings on May 26, 2022. From Kim Khan, stock index futures overcame some overnight weakness and point to a higher open on Thursday. NASDAQ futures shrugged off a chip giant NVIDIA falling more than 5% pre-market on guidance concerns. Most of the mega cap stocks are higher before the bell. S&P and Dow are higher. Consumer discretionary is doing well as Dollar General pops. The 10-year yield is up 2 points to 2.77%, and the 2-year yield is down 2 points to 2.48%. The May Fed minutes out yesterday reaffirmed the roadmap for 50 basis point hikes at the next two meetings. Among the last 19 major economy indicators, 13 have missed expectations, but this may not result in a Fed pause, but rather a Fed that doubles down on tightening. Today, investors will get the weekly jobless claims numbers before the open. Economists are looking for a dip to 215,000. At the same time, a second look at quarter one GDP arrives with a consensus for a tick down to 1.3% annual growth. Tick down? Oh, wait. So they're going to try to edit out the number and say, oh, no, we actually had great numbers for quarter. Okay, it took me a second to realize what they're doing here. No, see, you shrank. You're not taking down to 1.3% annual growth. You shrank 1.1% on quarter one. More market moving in April, pending home sales out right after the start of trading. Sales are seen falling 2% after a 1.2% drop in March. New home sales for April showed a housing market that's rapidly rolling over. So that's what we see coming off the economy. That's what we see coming off of our stocks. Let's get into the big news of the day, and we are going to start again talking about Uvalde. From CNN. Uvalde school shooter was in the school for up to an hour before law enforcement broke into a room where he was barricaded and killed him. From Isabel Chapman, Daniel A. Medina, Nicole Chavez, Dakin Andone, and Elizabeth Wolf, all for CNN. This changes a lot of things, and this right here is what gives me the most questions about this entire situation. Why did it take an hour for something to do? Unless, of course, and I'm going to try not to be conspiratorial about this. I'm going to try not to be tinfoily about this, but when I find out that a Border Patrol agent can come in from a certain distance away, and yet we can have an hour standoff while this fucking maniac is killing kids, Tell me how a little part of your brain doesn't go just slightly into conspiracy land. Like this was planned land. The gunman, who killed 19 students and 2 teachers at a Texas elementary school Tuesday, was on the premises for up to an hour before law enforcement forcibly entered a classroom and killed him, officials said on Wednesday. It's going to be within like 40 minutes or something, within an hour, Texas Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McCraw told CNN's Ed Lavandera at a news conference. The 18-year-old shooter, Salvador Ramos, was in a standoff with law enforcement officers for about a half hour after firing on students and teachers. Tony Gonzalez, whose district includes Uvalde, told CNN's Jake Tapper, citing a briefing that he was given. And then the shooting stops, and he barricades himself in, and that's where there's kind of a lull in action, Gonzalez said. All of it, I understand, lasted about an hour. This is where there's kind of a 30-minute lull. They feel as if they've got it barricaded in. The rest of the students in the school are now leaving. Ramos was killed by a law enforcement officer Tuesday, ending the second deadliest shooting at a K-12 school in the U.S. since 2012, when 26 children and adults were killed at Sandy Hook. It was at least the 30th shooting at a K-12 school in 2022, according to CNN tally. Do keep in mind that this is, when they say 30th shooting at a K-12 school, they count things like if the resource officer's gun goes off in his holster through an accidental discharge. They also count things like if there is a firing range set up at a defunct and closed down school. Those things count. I remember that. It wasn't with Sandy Hook. What was the one that they were doing? The Parkland one. Where every town said, there's been a mass shooting in a school every single day. Here are the statistics. And back when I was still watching Christensen, he actually went down and broke them down bit by bit and piece by piece and found the real story on all of them. And yes, multiple on the list that every town had put out on the list were instances where there was a shooting range set up at a defunct school. And it wasn't just one, it was several. Those were considered to be school shootings. The gunman was a local high school dropout with no criminal history and no known mental health history, officials said. He had just turned 18 and legally bought 2 AR-style rifles and ammunition for his birthday. His father said Wednesday he didn't know Ramos had guns. From what I understand, his father was not in the picture. From what I understand, he also, one of the guns that he bought was a Daniel Defense AR-style rifle. And a Springfield Saint. I looked both of those up yesterday, and I can confirm, I think the $5,000 number that we saw in the tweet yesterday was on the low end. Because typical retail for that is, man, this guy spent a lot of coin on these guns. Holy shit. And he went over to pick them up in a $2,000 Ford F-150. Gunman allegedly texted a teenage girl in Germany on the day of the shooting. The gunman had allegedly texted a girl who lives in Germany about his intentions just before he shot his grandmother in her home and left for the school in her pickup. So, there's your $2,000 pickup. So, he didn't even have a vehicle, as far as I know. According to screenshots reviewed by CNN and an interview with a 15-year-old girl who said she had been in contact with the gunman for weeks, Salvador Ramos complained about his grandmother being on the phone with AT&T about my phone. It's annoying, he texted. 6 minutes later, he texted, I just shot my grandma in her head. Seconds after that, he said, I'm going to go shoot up an elementary school right now. The last message was sent at 6:21 p.m. Central European Time, which was about 11:21 a.m. in Texas. The girl, who lives in Frankfurt, said that she had been chatting with Ramos on a social media app on May 9th. Ramos sent the girl selfie videos and discussed a plan to go visit her in Europe, according to videos and text messages. The girl, whose mother gave permission for her to be interviewed, said that she spoke to Ramos daily on FaceTime. She said she also communicated with him by a social live streaming app called Yubo and played games with him on a gaming app called Plato. In their conversations, he asked about her life in Germany. He looked happy and comfortable talking to me, the girl said. The texts of the girl are similar to the messages that Abbott said Ramos wrote on Facebook. Those disturbing writings, Abbott said, came as the suspect indeed shot his grandmother, drove to the nearby Robb Elementary School, forced his way in adjoining classrooms, and opened fire at a group of kids at the faculty. Officers eventually forced their way into the barricaded room, and a Border Patrol officer fatally shot him, Abbott said. They're leaving something out about this. Because as we said, and I can probably go back and find the tweet and the pictures here, but given what we saw from the truck, when it was landed in the ditch, that fucker was booking when he hit that drainage ditch. And he probably hit that drainage ditch sideways too, because he was probably being pitted out. They were chasing his ass down when he went to the elementary school. Now, as far as what this means, whether this was set up or whether or not this was authentic and he really was planning on going after the elementary school, well, we're never going to be able to ask the suspect because he did. But give me a sec. Let's pull up the Discord and let me see if I can find that really quick because, yeah, it wasn't just that he drove to the school. He just, I'm driving to the school, I'm going to go shoot up a bunch of kids. It was high speed and sideways into a drainage ditch. Let me back up through a few things. Yeah. Yeah, dude. And I mean, that's a small picture from here, but look at that tire. That is a broken off axle shaft. And an older solid axle F-150. Well, I mean, they're still solid axle, but an older F-150. Not to mention his broken off front spindle as well. That dude was cruising when he went into that drainage ditch. And he took out the fence for the drainage ditch, too. That was not just I'm going to a school, I'm going to go shoot up a school, my little girlfriend in Germany is going to be so proud of me. That guy hit that drainage ditch at least 70 miles an hour. At the bare minimum. A spokesperson for Meta, Facebook's parent company, said the gunman's messages were made in private one-to-one texts that were discovered after the shooting. Now, the city of Uvalde, about 90 miles west of San Antonio and just east of the U.S.-Mexico border, finds itself on the long list of American communities devastated by mass shootings. And this is where we are going into... this is where we're going to start going into the op-ed side of this, so I'm going to cut this article at this point. But, yeah, they're leaving specific stuff out of this. They're leaving massive details out of this here, but that's what we see coming off of that. Let's see, we've got the picture of the truck with the broken axle shaft. Some things from the outside. Onlookers urged police to charge into Texas elementary schools soon after the shooting began. I'm sure. I probably would have been too if I'd have been on the site. Come on, go do something, please. Our children are dying. Coming to WYFF4 via the Associated Press, onlookers urge police to charge into the Texas elementary school where the gunman's rampage killed 19 children and 2 teachers, a witness said on Wednesday, as investigators worked to track the massacre that lasted upwards of 40 minutes and ended when the 18-year-old shooter was killed by a Border Patrol team. The 18-year-old shooter warned in online messages shortly before the shooting that he would shoot his grandmother and shoot an elementary school, Governor Abbott said. President Biden said on Wednesday that he will travel to Uvalde in the coming days to meet the families of the 19 children and the 2 teachers killed in the shooting. So, he's going to go to Uvalde. He'll go for that one. Waukesha, President Biden. I'm sure the grieving families over there would love to hear from you. Gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke, who is running for against Abbott for governor this year, interrupted a press conference. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on, calling the shooting totally predictable when you choose to do nothing. Several victims have been identified by family members. Officials say all the victims were in the same classroom. Thank you, Randy. You said that yesterday. President Brandon delivered an emotional call for new restrictions on firearms after a gunman opened fire at a Texas elementary school on Tuesday. The suspect is dead. Go in there! Go in there! A nearby woman shouted at officers soon after the attack began, said Juan Carranza, 24, who saw the scene from outside his house across the street from the elementary school in the town of Uvalde. Carranza said officers did not go in. Javier Cazares, whose fourth grade daughter, Jacqueline Cazares, was killed in the attack, said he raced to the school when he heard about the shooting arriving while police were still massed outside the building. Upset that police were not moving in, he raised the idea of charging into the school with several other bystanders. Let's rush in because the cops aren't doing anything like they're supposed to, he said. More could have been done. They were unprepared, he added. I guess I gotta walk back some of what I said yesterday because I was running on the assumption yesterday that they went charging in as soon as they got there, and this was all over within a couple minutes, and they tried to shield children with their bodies while they were doing so. Apparently that was not the case. Minutes earlier, Carranza had watched Salvador Ramos crash his truck into the ditch outside the school, grabbed his AR semi-automatic rifle, and shot two people outside a nearby funeral home who ran away uninjured. He then exchanged fire with a school district security officer, ran inside, and fired on two arriving Uvalde police officers who were outside the building. The Texas Department of Public Safety spokesperson, Travis Considine, all law enforcement officers were injured, he said. Hours later, Considine said authorities did not know for sure whether the school resource officer exchanged gunfire with Ramos. Law enforcement officials had also issued sometimes contradictory statements about the length of Ramos's rampage. Sounds to me like there's some CYA going on. I wonder if there's dash cam or body camera that goes along with this. After entering the school, Ramos charged into a classroom and began to kill, a law enforcement official said. He barricaded himself by locking the door and then just started shooting children and teachers that were inside the classroom. Lieutenant Christopher Olivares, the Department of Public Safety, told CNN, "It just shows you the complete evil of the shooter." All those killed were in the same classroom, he said. Department of Public Safety Director Steve McCraw said about 40 minutes or so elapsed when Ramos opened fire on a school security officer when SWAT-like Border Patrol teams shot him. A law enforcement official familiar with the investigation said the Border Patrol agents had trouble breaching the classroom door and had to get a staff member to open the room with a key. The official spoke on the condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak publicly about the ongoing investigation. Carranza felt the officers should have entered the school sooner. I feel they should have entered the school sooner. You know, serve and protect is usually on the side of your cars. So, interesting twist to this.
What should have been a joyous day just before summer break turned into a nightmare when 19 children and 2 teachers were shot and killed at Robb Elementary on Tuesday. Families, instead of planning vacations, are now planning funerals.
Evil swept across Uvalde yesterday.
These are the faces of just some of the victims. 4th grade teacher Eva Mireles, 10-year-old Amary Jo Garza, 10-year-old Jose Flores, and Javier Lopez smiling here after making honor roll that morning.
Teacher got hit.
The suspected gunman is an 18-year-old who police say shot his grandmother before going to the school and opening fire on a 4th grade class.
He was dropped out of school. He had no criminal history that we've been able to find.
As the community grapples with this horrific tragedy, the conversation in Washington turns to curbing gun violence.
Our country is sickened and outraged by the senseless evil that struck Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas.
One nation under guns. It doesn't have to be that way. Our parents don't need to drop their kids off at school and wonder if their kid will be next.
Many now wondering whether these words from politicians will be turned into action. I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that. We will definitely be talking about that and the policies that are being prescribed because, you know, they're the usual policies. Just let the government protect you. You know, after we go and...
What should have been a joyous...
Shut up. We listened to you already. After we just found out that law enforcement didn't do anything to protect. And the funniest thing is the the anti-cop crowd. The liberals. The leftists. The ACAB crowd. The people that went and destroyed cities across the country this past year are saying, no, just trust the cops. Nobody needs a gun. The cops will come back out there for you. We'll talk a little bit about the Border Patrol agent. New details emerge about Border Patrol agent who killed Texas school shooter. How many agents responded from Ryan Saavedra? The Border Patrol agents credited with killing the 18-year-old Latino male who murdered 19 children at an elementary school in Texas on Tuesday was part of an elite unit that utilizes military special operations training. The agent is part of BORTAC, which stands for Border Patrol Tactical Unit, a small unit composed of only a couple hundred agents that is relied upon to carry out dangerous missions, including going after human traffickers and raiding stash houses. The Wall Street Journal reported that approximately 150 Border Patrol agents are stationed in Uvalde, which is where Robb Elementary School is located. When local police sent out the call yesterday about the shooting, Border Patrol agents were among the first law enforcement officials to respond. The report said that 80 Border Patrol agents responded to the shooting and that BORTAC agents usually carry their tactical gear with them. Initially, BORTAC couldn't get into the classroom because of the steel door and a cinder block construction, the report said. Meanwhile, the gunmen shot at them through the doors and walls. The BORTAC agents got a master key from the school principal that allowed them to enter the room, the report said. One BORTAC agent's shield was hit by rounds upon entering, and a second agent was wounded by shrapnel. A third killed the suspect. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said the agents acted without hesitation as they put themselves between the shooter and students to end the bloodshed and administer medical aid. Their heroism yesterday saved lives, Mayorkas added. Bill Malugan tweeted out a photograph of the hat that the Border Patrol agent was wearing when he killed the attacker. Yeah, he got grazed. This is the hat the elite veteran BORTAC Border Patrol agent was wearing when he breached the classroom with a tactical team and engaged and killed the Uvalde school shooter. A CBP source tells me, Malukin tweeted. Graze wound to the head, many BP agents in Uvalde have kids at the school. So that's what we know about them. Yeah, and apparently this is a pretty elite unit. By the way, I was just thinking as we were going here, so let me look at where Uvalde is on the map, because, you know, if the president goes there, maybe even the border czar can go there too. It doesn't seem like they're going to be that far from the border that they haven't visited in their entire time in office. Uvalde, Texas. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I mean, it's not exactly a walk over there, but hey, you can just go down US 90 and go see Del Rio. Go at least pay lip service to the fact that you've been to the border. Now, I mean, from what I understand, you're not in like Donna or one of the big areas, but hey, you'd be at the border. They're not going to do that. All right, let's talk about policy shift. Starting with how it started. From Politico, Senate begins search for bipartisan gun deal after Schumer's green light. No. And I can tell you Republican senators right now, especially those of you who are vulnerable, and Democrat senators too, by the way, because this country is getting more and more based as we go. I mean, you can try to do a bipartisan thing to restrict guns even more, but you won't be going back to D.C., especially if you're up this year. You will not be going back to D.C. in January if you do. This whole over an hour thing is the proof in the pudding that we need to be able to defend ourselves because we can't depend on pricks like you. From Burgess Everett. Chuck U. Schumer was giving the long shot gun safety negotiations a chance. Sinema's reaching out to Republicans on a path forward, and GOP senators are answering Chris Murphy's call for new bipartisan talks. Well, you can go out and fuck yourselves. Betting on a 50-50 Senate to cut a deal responding to the massacre of 19 children and 2 teachers at a Texas elementary school just 5 months before the midterms is still a long shot. But there's enough will among Senate Democrats to at least give it a go rather than force sure-to-fail votes instead of intending to put Republicans on defense. Instead of bringing up House-passed background checks, legislation that Republicans and possibly a Democrat or two would block, Schumer instead is holding out hope that the latest mass shooting will finally unstick a bipartisan deal. On Wednesday, he told his top deputy, Majority Whip Dick Durbin, that he was going to give Murphy, Sinema, and other deal-seeking Democrats some space to test the waters with Republicans one last time. It's the only approach that will result in law, Durbin said. Yes, won't you think of the children? The only approach that'll result in law. I talked to him this morning. He said if there's even a possibility of getting bipartisanship, we'll try to find it. Schumer castigated the GOP in a fiery floor speech on Wednesday for its obeisance to the NRA, saying that too many members on that side care more about the NRA than they do about families who grieve the victims of gun violence. He said that while he sympathized with Democrats who want to hold Republicans accountable via a quick vote on gun safety legislation, voters already know where Republicans stand. And it's interesting that this came after primaries have already started. Poor Majority Leader, never shy about forcing Republicans to reject legislation. Schumer's tactic on gun safety reflects a Democrat caucus hungry for success on responding to mass shooters. No, you're not responding to mass shooters. I've read your bullshit bills. You are responding to legal gun owners. You're not responding to mass shooters, and you can go and fuck yourself sideways. Still, Schumer pledged later Wednesday that at some point, we're going to vote on gun legislation, asking for Republicans to advance a domestic terrorism bill and amend it. In the immediate term, Murphy says that he doesn't need the votes on gun legislation he knows will fail, a view shared by many Democrats. Holding a failed vote now would certainly cool any possible cross-aisle deal-making. At a chair's lunch, Schumer told Democrats he wants Republicans to actually engage in bipartisan talks. I'm going to start having conversations with colleagues on both sides of the aisle, Sinema told reporters on Wednesday morning, a rare holding forth for the reserved senator, further demonstrating the emotion and urgency coursing through the Capitol on Wednesday. If there is a chance for us to do something to help make it safer for kids in this country, we owe it to the country to do it for real, not just talking points. Sinema promptly went to talk to Republicans on the Senate floor, and behind the scenes, Murphy has already been in touch with Collins and Toomey, a duo more amenable to finding common ground with Murphy. They're going to change the filibuster. You know that they are. The killer appears to have had a history of mental illness and is being increasingly erratic and violent, said Collins, whose home state has law allowing police to seize weapons from people deemed a threat by medical professionals, typically known as a red flag law. That's the kind of situation in which a yellow or red flag law is intended to prevent, except that you're taking things away without due process. Collins also mentioned her previous work to cut down on straw buyers and to prevent people on the terrorism watch list from buying firearms. Toomey remains focused on expanding background checks, the centerpiece of a 2013 effort with Manchin that failed to clear the Senate. So they're ready. They're ready to go back and come together and fuck us, the American people, even harder. Are you ready to see it? From the Hill. That's how it started, by the way. Now, Schumer tells colleagues not to expect gun control vote anytime soon. From Alexander Bolton. Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer told colleagues on the Senate floor Wednesday that he will not immediately bring gun control measures to the floor in the wake of 2 shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde because he doesn't expect them to muster enough Republican votes to pass. We must do something, and we have to do it right away while the American people are still emotional. Because then they might let us take away some of their rights. But we can't do it until after the holiday because they'll just fail and then we won't be able to go on our holiday. Instead, the Democratic leader said he will wait for Chris Murphy and other members of the caucus to try to negotiate a bipartisan compromise with the Republicans on a measure that has a better chance of securing 60 votes to overcome the filibuster. There are some who want this body to quickly vote on sensible gun safety legislation supported by the vast majority of Americans, he said. They want to see this body vote quickly so the American people can know which side each senator is on. I'm sympathetic to that, and I believe that accountability votes are important. But Schumer said that he thought that bringing gun control legislation in the immediate aftermath of the Buffalo and Uvalde, where 2 lone shooters left a total of 31 people dead in the span of 10 days, would be fruitless because of a staunch Republican opposition to such reforms. And, that pesky thing that they call the Constitution. He noted that Republicans oppose proposals to expand background checks, ban assault-style weapons, and prohibit high-capacity magazines after a gunman killed 20 children at Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012. If the slaughter of the school children can't convince Republicans to buck the NRA, what can we do? He said, referring to his go-to boogeyman, the National Rifle Association, which usually lets dumb cocksuckers like you get away with eroding away at the Second Amendment. If you want a boogeyman, use the gun owners of America. Sadly, this isn't the case for the American people. Now knowing where the senators stand, they know because my Republican colleagues are so perfectly clear on this issue. Crystal clear. So basically he's coming down saying, okay, we're going to push this off because we can't math. Let's talk about a proposal that was put out there that doesn't involve limiting the Second Amendment. A rare win for my Senator Ron Johnson, who is, under most circumstances, a moron. We'll start with how the left wing wants you to see Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson silent on background checks following the Uvalde shooting, but pushes a bill for a clearinghouse on school safety. From Bill Glauber. After this week's devastating school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, Ron Johnson made an effort Wednesday to codify a national clearinghouse on school safety. But the Oshkosh Republican gave no indication of his long opposition to universal background checks for firearm sales had wavered in any way, silently walking away from a CNN reporter in D.C. when questioned about the issue. Just so you know, universal background checks are a step towards a registry, which is what they need when they come in and start doing their gun grabbing. During a speech on the floor, Johnson made his push for the Luke and Alex School Safety Act, which would require the Department of Homeland Security to collect feedback and data on the best practices for improving the health, safety, and welfare of individuals in school settings. The bill is named after Luke Hoyer and Alex Schachter, who were killed in the school shooting in Parkland, Florida on February 2018. The clearinghouse already exists. The bill would codify it into law. Today, America grieves, Johnson said. There's nothing bipartisan or nothing partisan about it. There's nothing partisan about this bill whatsoever, Johnson said. It's just a good idea that could save lives. During this previous administration, they set up that clearinghouse. It's up and it's operating. Johnson asked for the measure to be passed by unanimous consent. But he was blocked by Chuck U. Schumer, who vowed, "We are going to vote on gun legislation. The American people are tired of moments of silence, tired of the kind words, offered thoughts and prayers." Instead, Schumer said that he would use another bill, the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, to begin considering gun safety amendments and could consider Johnson's proposal in the process. Johnson responded, calling it a sad day for the United States Senate. And see, it's already just partisanship. Now again, as far as the Luke Hoyer and Alex Schachter Act, I don't necessarily believe that's the right route to go either, to get more federalization into our local schools. We do need to sit down and have a conversation with our localities to make sure that everything is staying safe. I mean, I admitted it in a Discord chat last night, that the school that I went to, and you know, the people that were in the chat with me were all considerably younger than me, 5 to 10 years. In a situation that was much further post-Columbine, and I think all three of them were in bigger schools at one point. Because Columbine happened in '99, my freshman year of high school. But in my small town of 2,000 people that I went to high school in, every door around the school was wide open. You could walk in from literally any door around the school if you needed to. There was no fencing around the school. Any time of the day, you just waltz right in and go. I would not be surprised to go there right now and find out that you can only go into my high school inside the door from the office. In fact, I would say that, and I don't want to give too many details away about this, but I would say that looking in at that, right now, the big security risk in my high school is probably more likely the fact that the public library, which is open to the public, is attached to the school and has a door that's typically unlocked that goes between the library and the school. That would be a security point that I would be concerned about if it was me. In fact, it actually has several points of entry from the public library to the school, going through two of our computer classrooms, and I think there's another door over by the study hall, if I remember correctly. Actually, no, I don't think there is. I think they closed that one off. So yes, weak points and points of entry. Now, mind you, as I've said before on this channel, in the town I went to high school in, again, I don't know because it's been 20 years. I don't know, perchance, if they've amended this or adjusted this because of the times. But when I was going to school there, and I knew which cars it was, out of all the cars, probably 70 to 100 in the parking lot at any given time, 20 to 30% of them had a long arm of some sort, either a shotgun or a short range long rifle, in case the farmer kid went home and saw a coyote in the cow pen and had to go dispatch it and take care of it. Cased and unloaded per Wisconsin law. But I know which cars they were too. About 20% of them had one in there. Unless it was between the months of, it was in the months of November and April, where it was 70%. Small town America typically doesn't have to deal with this. And we never had a problem. Mostly because I think that if anybody was about to snap like this, they'd be dispatched by one of the farm kids before police ever showed up. But that's another story. But the big idea here is to come back out here and, again, make it harder for law-abiding citizens than for the people who actually commit the crimes. So that's what we see off of that. From the Blaze, Schumer blocks bipartisan school safety bill in Senate after deadly shooting. From Chris Pandolfo. We read about this one. We read about this one in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. We're going to skip this one just because we have so much over the top over here. Let's talk about Beto. And we'll actually use the Daily Wire for the video because we know that Politico Video doesn't like to play "You're doing nothing, brah." O'Rourke accosts Abbott at a press conference on the shooting. O'Rourke was escorted out of the event by security. And all your Occupy Democrats and all the Twitter accounts that try to force on you right now are like, "Oh, Beto, he's so dreamy. This was his moment that he's shown." From Kelly Hooper. Texas Democrat Beto O'Rourke confronted Abbott at a press conference on Wednesday, accusing the governor of inaction on gun violence in the wake of a mass shooting at an elementary school that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Abbott, flanked by law enforcement and fellow Republican lawmakers, had just wrapped up giving an update on Uvalde, in which he said mental health was the root cause of the deadly event when O'Rourke approached the stage. "Governor Abbott, brah, I have to say something." O'Rourke, who was running for a Democratic nomination to challenge Abbott's in November's midterm elections, said, "The time to stop the next shooting is right now, brah, and you're doing nothing." The totality of O'Rourke's remarks were difficult to hear as he was shouted down by those on stage who were speaking into microphones. Among those attempting to speak over O'Rourke was Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, a Republican who told former El Paso congressman to sit down and that he was an embarrassment. I might see if I can't get that video to play, because I don't know if the Daily Wire doesn't seem to have that one on there. But him talking to reporters after being ejected. Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin, standing behind Abbott, shouted at O'Rourke, "I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make it a political issue." When O'Rourke yelled towards the stage, "It's on you, brah," McLaughlin replied, "It's on assholes like you. Why don't you get out of here?" O'Rourke was escorted out of the event by security. Let's watch. Oh, we might not be able to. Well, it's 25 minutes.
Law enforcement have lost their lives. Community has a phone number available for every American.
He came to my hometown of El Paso. After 23 people were
we
slaughtered,
need to
he
focus
said he was going to do
not on
something.
ourselves and
He
our
did nothing. In
agendas.
fact, the only
We need
thing
to
for people who need it, he's refused. They were slaughtered at Santa Fe.
Let you know that if you are listening in
1-6.
Excuse me, was after Santa Fe High School.
Sit down.
There it is.
And at this time, I will pass the mic to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Governor, I have to say something.
Excuse me.
The time
Excuse me.
to stop this
Excuse me.
was after Santa Fe High School.
Sit down.
You're
Don't
out of
pull a
line
stunt.
and an embarrassment.
Was after El Paso.
Sit down and don't play this
Stop
stuff.
the next shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing.
No,
You're offering
you
us
need to
nothing.
get his ass out of here.
You
This
said
isn't
this
the
is
place
not
to talk this
predictable. This is totally predictable when you choose
Sir, you're
not
out of
to
line.
do anything. to
Sir,
save the
you are
kids
out of
in the
line.
state. I'm standing
Sir,
up for the
you
kids
are
in
out
the
of line.
state
Please
to
leave
stop
this
from
auditorium.
happening
So you
again.
can exit. You can exit. I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
This is not the place to do that.
Check, check. Okay, we are up. Excuse me for the mic check. I just want to let you know that if you are listening in right now, it appears that we have a reporter. That's who it appears to be. I am not exactly sure who it is at this time. They have gone up. Oh, actually, that appears to be Beto O'Rourke. That's Beto O'Rourke. That's Beto O'Rourke. That is Beto O'Rourke. Hang on one second. Beto O'Rourke went up to the stage and actually asked Governor Greg Abbott how many more times we were going to see this. We are going to try to see if we can get a better shot of him. Excuse me. At first we thought that was a reporter, but I am now trying to get out of the auditorium. I'm trying to see if I can catch up with Beto O'Rourke, who we thought was originally a reporter. I'm going to see if my photojournalist can also... I think he's going to stay there for now. I'm going to see if I can get Beto. If you guys cannot hear me, please let me know. But again, Beto O'Rourke just going up to the stage. We were unaware that he was actually in attendance. I'm going to see if I can catch up with him.
There's no words that anybody shouting from up here can do anything to heal those.
He went to Santa Fe High School after kids were killed in their classroom. Told the parents he would do something. Nothing.
America.
He came to. One is on all of us. It's on every single one of us to do something. So I'm here to stand up for the people of Texas. That's why I'm here.
Health was broken here. He said
we are 50th. We are 50th. We are 50th in the nation in mental health care access. 50th. There are only 50 states in the nation. We are dead last. The #1 provider of mental health care services under Greg Abbott in the state of Texas is the county jail system in the state of Texas. The largest inpatient mental health care facility in the state of Texas is the Harris County Jail in downtown Houston, Texas. He's refused to expand Medicaid, which would bring $10 billion a year, including mental health care access for people who need it. He's refused to champion red flag laws. When somebody says that they are having trouble, that they may kill somebody, they may kill themselves, a red flag law would protect the public. He's refused to support safe storage laws so young people cannot get their hands on their parents' guns. He's refused to support a ban on AR-15s and AK-47s. This 18-year-old who just turned 18 bought an AR-15 and took it into an elementary school and shot kids in the face and killed them. Why are we letting this happen in this country?
All right, there's Beto O'Rourke coming out here and, well, probably not doing something that's on the best part for the Democratic line, because he's actually coming out and talking about the mental health side of things, not the gun side. And remember, if you are a Democrat, you are supposed to be banning the gun, and mental health is not supposed to be a conversation you're even trying to have. So do keep that in mind. This may cost him some votes somewhere down the line from his own Democrat side, but we'll see what happens with that. From the Washington Post, gunman bought 2 rifles, hundreds of rounds in days before the massacre. Review. We're going to hold off on this one. Let's talk about this one here, coming to us from Reddit. You guys like Reddit, right? Reddit's r/Salt Lake City. I want to destroy my handgun. I checked with the SLCPD website and couldn't find information on how to do this safely and legally through them. I know it's like taking 1 drop of water out of the ocean, but I want the gun I'm responsible for to be rendered unusable. How would I best accomplish this? Saudi 8 says Community Grace Presbyterian Church in Sandy is having an event in conjunction with the Utah Gun Violence Prevention Center on Saturday, June 11th at 2:30 p.m. They will dismantle your gun in the parking lot and send it off to be turned into garden tools. Also, if you can't make that specific event, looks like you can coordinate with the folks that do the gun destruction to have the gun destroyed at any time. Utenik, the OP, says, thank you for sharing this. Star comment from the ATF, which ATF says how to properly destroy firearms. Ben Kurai says, if anyone wants help with weapons disposal, I will help you. DM me. I'm an accomplished metal worker and a gun enthusiast. I know how to safely handle all types of firearms and can help you render the firearm permanently useless and safe for recycling/disposal. I will tell you this, original poster. You take your firearm to your local FFL dealer, take it to your local gun shop that has a federal firearms license, and have that firearms dealer contact me. I will handle the rest on the background. Just have your firearms dealer contact me. Drop it off there with a note. Say, here's J. Edgar over on Contemporary. He wants to talk to you about this firearm. He's going to dispose of it for me. And I will make the rest of it happen for you. That's all I have to say. Some more news that's coming off of this, on the gun side of it, from Fox 4, KDFW, this is Dallas-Fort Worth. More gun stuff in Texas. Richardson ISD student arrested after gun found in vehicle near Berkner High School, police say. Richardson police arrested a Berkner High School student after a real gun and replica rifle were found in his car that was parked in a lot near the campus. The school went on lockdown for about an hour Wednesday morning, and police credit the quick arrest to someone who saw something and said something. Parents have been forced to once again have difficult conversations with their children about shootings in schools after Richardson Police Department investigators said a student had an AK-47 style pistol and a replica AR-15 style Orbeez rifle in his car. My daughter came home today. She's 10, and she was like, "Oh my God, Daddy, there was a lockdown." I haven't had the conversation yet, said Banika Namasaka, who also has a child in the 9th grade at Berkner. A day after the deadly mass shooting in Uvalde, parents, students, and educators at Richardson had a scare of their own. Richardson police said Wednesday morning, just before 11 a.m., a 911 call came in saying a male was walking towards Berkner High School while holding what appeared to be a rifle. Within minutes, police swarmed the campus, identified the underage student, and took him into custody. I heard the sirens from home and everything because I'm close by, Namasaka recalled. Investigators said the student did not have a weapon with him in the school, but said the loaded firearm was found in the boy's car, which was parked across an intersection from the campus. Fox 4 cameras were there when a Volkswagen Jetta in the parking lot where police were investigating was towed from the scene. Police said the gun found in the car appeared to be an AK-47 style pistol. Officers also found a replica AR-15 style Orbeez rifle. It's scary. It's hard to say, man, what happened in Uvalde. 19 kids. I have a 5-year-old I picked up from pre-K. I'm speechless, Namasaka said. Fox 4 has learned that Richardson police had contact with a juvenile in recent months, but sources did not have any details on the nature of that interaction with officers. The high school and nearby elementary school were put on lockdown. Police charged the boy with unlawful carrying weapons in a weapon-free school zone. You know, that big sign that says, "Criminals, come here first." So, they are not fucking around right now. Got one from our friends over at NPR who think that they have the biggest dunk and the biggest win in the world here. Joe Hernandez reports guns are banned during Trump's upcoming speech at the NRA conference. And remember, NPR needs our money, comrade, to make sure to tell you that guns are evil. And you're evil if you own one, and only the police can protect you. But if the police come out and shoot a suspect of the wrong skin color, even in self-defense, they are automatically evil, and you should not trust them. So you should trust them for your protection when it's convenient, but not when it's inconvenient. And only NPR can tell you that, and they can only tell you that if you donate all of our money, comrade, to them. So hit that donate button, because NPR's taxpayer subsidies don't amount to enough. to brainwash you with their propaganda, and they need our money, comrade, to do so. NPR, never printing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. Former President Trump is scheduled to speak at the NRA's annual leadership forum on Friday, but audience members at the group's annual meeting being held this year in Houston won't be able to carry guns during his address. The conference is going ahead in the shadow of Tuesday's mass shooting at Uvalde that killed at least 21 people, including 19 students. According to the NRA, the Secret Service is taking control of the hall during Trump's speech and is prohibiting attendees from having firearms accessories, and knives. Ammunition, laser pointers, pepper spray, toy guns, backpacks, and other items also won't be allowed. The Secret Service will search attendees with magnetometers before they enter the hall, the NRA said. This isn't the first time firearms have been off limits during the part of the gun group's annual convention. In 2018, a similar prohibition was put in place during a speech by then Vice President Mike Pence. The Secret Service told NPR in a statement at the time that the agency has the authority to preclude firearms from entering sites visited by our protectees, including those located in open carry states. So, NPR thinks this is a dunk. They're like, even President Trump, who's the most pro-gun president, which he's not, even he's not allowing guns in there because guns are so dangerous. First of all, I'm going to come out and tell you that I don't think that he got a say in this. Pretty positive the Secret Service went through that and said, nope, that shit ain't happening. There could be, like Ron says, a crazy Democrat would go in there and shoot him if they had a chance. And they have been propagandized to say that they'll be doing, like, if they shoot the president and get killed by law enforcement or Secret Service afterwards, that they'll go straight to, well, whatever progressives believe in as heaven, if they die in the service of destroying the evil orange man. They've been propagandized to that hard. Furthermore, and this is the one that got to me, and this is where I posted out on this. I said, yes, they're being... Uh-oh. We disconnected for a moment. What happened? Well, let's go figure out what's happening here. I saw my counter drop to 0, and then the next thing I know, I've got the bottom of the OBS is telling me your stream is disconnected. Well, I guess we're just going to have to go with it. It's like everything is back up. Yeah, did the stream get confiscated? Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It must have been on OBS's side because it dropped everything. And yeah, our counter dropped to 0. All right, let's see if we can't get back up to 10 viewers.